Shall we? All right, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, morning everyone. It's Thursday, May 29th. It's the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners work session. I'm Aaron Mays. I represent District 3, currently serving as chair. On my left is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1. On my right, Commissioner Kevin Cook, representing District 2, and then Ashley Biegert, representing the County Counselor's Office today. So good morning to all of you.
Morning.
Let's go ahead and dive in. We've got a wonderful presentation planned today from the Department of Corrections. So Brian, you want to kick us off?
Thank you, Commissioner Mays. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I want to say thank you to everyone for giving us this opportunity to kind of give an overview of some things that have been happening and some things that we've been doing at the Department of Corrections and how we've been able to be very innovative when it comes to our programs, how we, another approach to how we've done a lot of things. And, obviously there's a lot of energy in the air about the behavioral health unit and competency restoration. So I brought our team, much smarter than me, to come over and talk about a lot of different things when it comes to how we're doing stuff. And we're going to talk about, I'm going to start off talking about staffing, and then I've got Major Tim Phelps that's going to talk about the behavioral health unit and competency restoration. I've got Major McCarty's going to talk about juvenile programming, our performance standards. I've got Major Joe Rucker's going to talk a little bit about, I think, one of the unsung heroes or assets that we have that's unappreciated is the work crews that we have at the Department of Corrections. And then I've got Major Steve Willis that's going to talk about community corrections. A lot of times, community corrections was separated from the Department of Corrections for so many years. So I think just a reminder that we put them back under the Department of Corrections, and under his leadership is just we've just done very well. So jumping right in with staffing, that we have come a long ways. Back in 2021, which is not that far ago, about 4 years, we were facing 70 vacancies at the Department of Corrections, and that was strictly just 70 vacancies in our corrections specialists running the main operation in the Department of Corrections, our modules, whether it was book-in, whether it was court transport, you name it. And we had a turnover rate that was nearly 40%, which was high. People were coming, they were leaving, and a lot of the things, when we started doing a deep dive into a lot of things, one of them salaries. We were the third largest jail, and we were the third lowest paid in there. We had tons of forced overtime. We had some people that were getting forced every day for 3 and 4 months. They were losing valuable time with their families. They were getting burnt out really quick. We had a lot of lockdowns at the Department of Corrections because we just didn't have the staffing to keep the modules open, and that's not the way to run a direct supervision jail. Inmates were starting to get very tense. We started losing a lot of programs because the modules were locked down. So the inmates were getting very tense. The staffing and the staff that were working the modules, they could sense it, and it was becoming a very bad situation. We saw an uptick of inmate activity as in disciplinary actions. We saw staff that were staying for 2 or 3 weeks saying, look, I'm done, I can't handle this, and it was becoming both a physical and a mental toll on the staff that were getting ordered. And I can tell you on the administrative staff that us ourselves, I didn't as much, but I can give you some examples of Major Rucker and especially Major McCarty. They were working the extra hours in operation. They were coming in uniform working and the shifts, and everybody started pitching in. These are people that didn't get overtime. These were people that were working 8 to 5, rearranging their schedules, coming in on weekends to make sure the job was getting done. And I think overall staff did an excellent job. And I think what I'm most appreciative of is they stayed loyal and dedicated. Then during this time, we were in the middle of a pandemic. At the 21, we were in a pandemic that was hurting some stuff. So We just regrouped. We got with Angela Lewis, the director of HR, and started saying, okay, how are we going to do stuff? How are we going to do some stuff better? So we basically, outside of witchcraft, we started looking at everything. We started doing walk-in interviews. People could walk in and get an interview. We started doing that. We started going to about every career fair. Career fairs are hit and miss. When it comes to recruiting, we would get a lot of people that would come by and talk to us, but at the end of the day, we weren't getting very much. We started paying a little extra to get into Indeed, which was a resource recruitment agency. That had worked very well for us. We started doing billboard advertising, magazine advertising. We started doing everything. We started having staff going out on their off time and talking and going places and asking and recruiting as much as we can. And then we started to see a change a little bit when it came to the salaries. That there was the implementation of the referral pay. That worked very well. We started seeing people getting referral pay from staff were getting seeing the incentive, and then they were getting the sign-on bonus. ARPA relief funds, that came in. We kind of followed suit with the State Department of Corrections in the Kansas State on looking at how they started looking at the high stress of the corrections field. So that played a huge, major role. We're talking salaries went from like $16, $15 an hour up to like $23, $25 an hour. And we started seeing that immediately. And that started bringing in a lot of interviews. We had work to do on ourselves. We had work to do. We started doing a lot of exit interviews, and we were being told that, you know, as supervisors and administrators, we needed to do something better. So what we started looking at is an implementation of a 4-week academy, which was very valuable, 1 whole week to CIT, which I think that started with the influx of behavioral health inmates that we have. That training was starting to give them another tool to allow them to be able to enter into conflict resolution, de-escalate, being able to how to understand those who, and to better manage those with behavioral health. And we just started looking at better quality training for our supervisors and leadership training with Washburn University, Washburn Tech. And so this was not just a fix with just salary. It was a look at ourselves saying, how can we do this stuff better? And we did. So in that first year, we hired 18 people, which just, that doesn't sound much, but that 18 people did a remarkable job for us. To not, you know, because we have a lot of information, we kept on. We started hiring, we started training. As I look today we're currently at 15 vacancies. That's about, I think, 9 on the adult side and 6 on the juvenile side. Our turnover rate is 22%, which is very low. In the average for corrections right now is about 40 to 45%. So we're at 22%. We've reduced forced overtime. In fact, I have more staff coming to me now saying, Brian, the overtime's going away. The hours are going down. Some cost is going down. Some staff are concerned like, oh, now I won't be able to get the overtime that I want. Reduction in the module lockdowns and the enhancement and increase of module programs. That has been a true benefit. With the staff that we've had, that's allowed us to increase an honor module, get our work crews back out on the streets, update work release that was shut down. In that program. So we've been able to enhance a lot of internal processes and again, increasing our academy training for a safer working environment. I think today we have about, I believe, 12 or 14, anywhere, I think about maybe 15 that are in the hiring process, from interviews being scheduled all the way up to polygraphs. It's been a very tough journey, but we persevered. We have managed during this time to be successful in every accreditation, every audit. We have been able to stay under budget. We have been able to do a lot of good stuff, and that is just a testament to the staff, the supervisors who stayed loyal, who fought through it, The morale is much better. We're able to just do a lot more things with staffing. So we have seen a great benefit to the salaries and our training and how we've worked very hard to get our vacancies down. So it has been very good. You know, again, our staffing, we still have the foot on the gas pedal. We're not slowing down. We did repurpose money instead of having a lot of career fairs or a lot of things that we're putting it into more training for staff, resources. We work with the sheriff's office, and maybe if there's training outside for some of our staff when it comes to registration of offenders and things like that. So it's been a complete teamwork effort, and I appreciate the work from Human Resource being patient with us, helping us out, getting us through this time, the commissioners for the support and their attention for salaries, and I think overall just the support of being patient and trusting that we were doing the right things. So with that, I'll stand for any questions about staffing.
Any questions?
No, just thank you for all the hard work that you've put into getting to where we're at. So
Yes.
it's been quite a lift.
It has. Thank you. I'm going to ask Major Tim Phelps to come up now and discuss a little bit about the behavioral health unit and the COPSI restoration.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. I think Amanda is going to be putting a PowerPoint up to kind of give us a little bit of structure for our conversation. While she works on that, I wanted to indicate that from my perspective, as being kind of the person that's been asked to supervise this process, I sincerely appreciate the support that we've received from the Commission. I know that it's always difficult when people are asking for money for big projects like this, and we have tried to be good stewards of that money by going out and developing a relationship with KDADs and get them to help participate in this process and this project. And it's not over. We're going to continue that work with them and try to search out every other source of money we can find to not just support the brick and mortar part of this operation, but as we proceed, we also know that it's going to be expensive to do the work that we're scheduled to do in this building. So with that, of course, it's, so you have on the slide here a $20 million project, $10 million from bond issue for Shawnee County, and $10 million from KDAD's matching dollar for dollar the money that we're spending. It's scheduled for completion April 2026. We're still on target for that. As we'll see when we go through this, we've lost some days due to weather, but they're also really hustling now, so I think we're pretty near caught up with that. So the first slide here indicates kind of where things started getting serious in the construction. It's an overhead shot. You can see around on the, I don't know how this works exactly, so I'll try. You see these little, right there. There you go. I found it. There you go. Those things, those piers, there's nearly 36 of those footing piers spread out across that structure, and they run anywhere between 30 and 40 feet deep, and 24 to 36 inches wide, depending upon the specific level of support it needed. So it was quite an undertaking watching the drill come in, and they had strict rules, which I don't think was always worked out particularly well for us as far as our efficiency at the front end, but they had to make sure every hole they drilled was filled before they went home for the night, because they couldn't leave anything that large and deep unprotected. So it was a little slow going to get all that done. Simultaneously, they were doing work to lay in the underground rough in for electrical and plumbing. And in November of '24, we spent just over $350,000 that was billed for that month of work. And we had 5 days of delay because of the weather. Then we moved into December. You can see a picture there that shows the aggressive superstructure being laid in for both the concrete work where the footings needed to be, and all the piping for the electrical and the plumbing. They had to do extra structural support for the areas that would hold the stairwells and the elevator shaft. And I didn't specifically mention it here, but also they were having to do all the tie-in work where the new building would connect to the old building, because it's actually passing over in that spot where it connects. It passes over the ramp that goes down into the training area in the basement. And so it had to get a lot of extra reinforcement to make sure it didn't collapse on anybody. So only 1 day of delay during December, which was kind of good for a December period. $441,000 was billed during that month. And when we get billed, incidentally, I also want to thank Jennifer and her team, because they've been outstanding. We've got to navigate a number of hurdles every time we are trying to do a financial transaction, because it has to be split between the bond money and the state money, and there's deadlines and all kinds of rules that have to govern what we do there. And they've been really patient with me and helped me get through all that, so we keep everything clean as we go. Starting in January, you'll see that we actually ended up losing 9 days, because if you remember, we had some pretty severe colds and pretty severe snow, and that slowed work. We finished finalizing the rough-in plumbing and electrical. We got that base concrete slab down. And I got to tell you that they say in this kind of new construction work that all the real disasters happen until you get out of the ground. Everything that you don't know is there. That's what you run into. And that's going to be the problem until you get out of the ground. And this was kind of the last phase of getting out of the ground, so that we are working at a level surface and we can go up from there. So after they finished getting that vapor barrier down and the first floor slab poured, they went to work to start working on building the walls for the stairwells and elevator shafts. Spent over $600,000 in that month's work, and again, 9 days of delay. So that's a pretty good picture showing how they were about nearly half through that pouring of that concrete there. That's a pretty neat little picture. They have a drone, so they periodically send it up and take a bunch of aerial shots and download it onto their system. And then I have access to that. And if anybody wants to spend a big batch of time looking at cool pictures, I can give you access to it. You can enjoy it. So moving into February, you can see they started work on that stairwell. There's a stairwell at the north end, stairwell at the south end. And that superstructure you see building around, it's kind of a cool little thing that the masons do to make sure that they're safe, the scaffolding system. And it's you can see there's one at each end where they're doing that stairwell and elevator wall work. They also have to build into those walls the anchors that are going to hold the steel beams once they start getting put in place. And in February, the steel started arriving, being put in the laydown yard that's about a block away. And so they got good and geared up. We went over $1 million in February because of all that extra masonry work that was going on, which means more manpower. And we had 10 days of delay. Then we moved into March, finalized the steel prep. You see those walls had to go. What's remarkable is those things have to be built up like that and supported and plumbed with less than less than a ½ inch of tolerance. Those steel beams have to come in and land perfectly on those masonry walls. So that is some impressive work those guys do there. And it's a little slow going. I don't know if you remember, we had some pretty intense wind during March, which means that just as those things are going up, they were facing a lot of heavy wind shifts. And so we did end up losing 3 days. And most of that was actually wind, because they had to slow down and make sure that they stayed structurally secure. And of course, the plumbing and electrical, those pipes have to go through those walls because of lights and security things and all of that. So it's a very methodical process. They started laying steel in April. People were commenting as they were driving by, and suddenly, poof, there's this big building the bones of the building going up. After they got the steel laid in, then they started the deckings, which is that metal stuff that you see on top of the first floor steel. And that decking makes the area prepared to pour in the second floor concrete. Again, plumbing and electrical continued, and we bumped up to over $1.5 million in the cost that we spent during April. And we did have 3 days delay in that month as well, again, primarily because of wind. Don't really have a main problem with rain because they've built the site such that that stuff runs off pretty quickly when it hits. Had a little bit of struggle with that in the early going, but they figured out how to make it all go in the right direction, and so now we don't have problems with it. This is now where they are. If you went over there today, you'd roughly see this picture. This is the top floor. They're laying in the decking since they've got all of the piping in place on the second floor. And they're going to come in next week and pour the concrete on the third floor. This picture here is looking kind of a southwest direction or southeast direction. And that is the south stair tower that you see there on the right-hand side. And that back area is where that set of cells that are on that south end will be positioned. So that's the current progress. We've made up, as I indicated, because once they got to a point where they could bring in a bunch of workers, that place looked like a bunch of ants crawling around that building doing a bunch of different pieces of it. And it's quite impressive to watch. So they're up to speed. They feel like they're back on track, and they may end up even gaining some additional time. They have indicated they expect to be substantially closed. That is, that primary building should be closed and sealed up by July of this year. And then they can put all hands on deck working on the interior. We are still working on trying to identify funding, because what I'd like to be able to do, what I'm aiming to do, is at least buy the cells for the third floor. We've had some savings that we've identified since we didn't have as many problems getting out of the ground as we were afraid we were going to have. So we've got a few savings there, contingency fund savings, and I'm hoping I can put all those together and at least buy the cells for the third floor if we're unable to get enough money to finish it off. So it's good progress, and I think that we're going to find it's going to be finished certainly by April 26th, if not before. So I'll stand for any questions. Oh, and we are going to do some touring for folks in the fall of this year once they get it all closed in, and little cooler temperatures, because we don't want to have people trying to walk through there boiling. So I'll stand for any questions that you have about that project.
Any questions?
Our funding on the third floor, I know that we're still looking to close some gaps. I presume that we're still reaching out to every resource that we can to try to close that up and close that gap.
I am. It's going to be, I think, going to take a little bit of creative work there. Ashley and I met and talked about a potential use of the opioid dollars. We're still looking at a few aspects of that. I'm not sure that will work, but we also are, there's a potential to have some, I don't want to speak out of school for Jennifer, but maybe a few dollars in bond interest that might be able to help us fill in some gaps. But the goal is to do as much of that third floor as we possibly can and stay within the budget that we're working with.
Okay.
If the federal dollars do come in 2026, we'll backfill as much as possible, because they'll be usable as of October of this year, because that's their fiscal year, even though the money may not hit us until early 26. So, you know, every angle that we can identify, we're gonna push more.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No. Great. Good to see it moving along. Thank you.
Okay, so the other thing that Director Cole wanted me to talk about, and I'm going to hand you a little handout, kind of follow along, as I think you all are aware, we've been working, trying to solve the difficulty that we've had for some years now, trying to do something with that population in our jurisdiction who are waiting to go to Larned for competency restoration. And it's been a statewide struggle. Some jurisdictions turned it into litigation. Other jurisdictions have tried a few different little tricks to move things along. Johnson County and Douglas County and Sedgwick County. Sedgwick County is actually going to have a small version of Larned built down there that KDADS is paying for some additional beds because they're a pretty large jurisdiction too. So we felt the pressure. We realized we had to try to do something because these are some of our most severely mentally ill people that we house. And when they start deteriorating, then there's danger to life, there's danger to long-term mental health and physical health. And we can't just keep ignoring it because the problem's growing faster than the solutions. So we put together a committee, and Commissioner Cook has served on that committee at times and have been available to help us talk through things as it impacts government. And we first pushed to try to get the law changed so that maybe there'd be another option available to all jurisdictions in Kansas. And I think it was actually Representative Patton that put that law forward, put the bill forward, got the statute modified, the statute for KSA 22-3301 and on, that dictates the rules for competency evaluation and treatment. So we got some changes. We had the law, or they modified the law so that we could do 2 additional options in Kansas. One is a mobile competency, they call it, which just means it's not at Larned, but it's still done by Larned, their staff, but it's done throughout the state. And then the other option, if a jurisdiction is willing to do it, was a local competency. So some of these things get a little deep in the weeds, but I think it's worth mentioning that the difficulty for most jurisdictions in Kansas is they're just too small. They can't stand up a system. They don't have the resources to bring in behavioral health people, to have the staffing or the physical plant to conduct the programming. They just aren't that large or that flexible. So it really comes down to, if we're going to make an impact on the beds and the use of the beds at Larned, we have to take some of that pressure off. So we either get to wait or we get to try to find a solution. And I was looking through the list of people that we today have waiting to go to Larned, and each of those people get a bed assigned, a bed number assigned, or I'm sorry, where they are on the list assigned to them. And the lowest person we have on our current list is 45. That means there are 44 people before this person gets to go to Larned from all over the state. And the highest we have on the list is number 163. So there's still lag. There's still a significant lag in this process. So what we concluded was, let's first try mobile competency. So we signed on with KDADS as soon as the law passed, and we worked out with them for them to come to our jail and do mobile competency. And there was some success. We did clear 8 to 10 people within the first couple of years off that list, which is success. There's no taking that away from them. But because of their rules, because of their eligibility rules, who they will let into the program, it was only you might call it the lowest hanging fruit, the ones that are easiest to deal with amongst the inmates that are declared incompetent. So it wasn't having as much an impact on the statewide or even Shawnee County as we would like it to have had. So we started looking into what will it require for us to stand up a local competency restoration program. So that we started that work, and it probably took us a little over a year to put all the pieces together, we had to develop contracts with the people doing the work. We modified our contract with Armor for the medication management aspect of the work. And we entered into a contract with Vallejo that had them come into our jail and do the programming work for competency restoration, but they're paid by a state fund. So we don't pay them money for the work they're doing in our jail in this regard. So we got that set up, and then the next step that was required was to go out and do some education and some training. So we probably spent 4 or so months doing nothing more than getting out in the community, talking to the stakeholders, getting them all educated, talking through the potential sticking points. How are you going to manage medication? If they refuse to take medication, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to court and get medication over objection? Or are you going to just consider that a failure of the program? What are all the rules surrounding all of these nuances? And so we talked through them all, and I think the final step in that was that we presented a CLE class, continuing legal education class, to the lawyers in this jurisdiction, trying to focus on getting as many defense lawyers in the room as possible. It was nice to see that we had a good number of prosecutors there as well, because it will impact them, although not as immediately. And so we had a really good turnout. That was 2 weeks ago or so here at the courthouse. And so then we cleared all the hurdles, so now we're going to start. And the date that we set up a committee to do the work inside the jail. The committee's made up of a couple of folks from Vallejo, the woman who's going to actually conduct the programming. Her name is Cheyenne Lyons, I want to say. Anyway, Cheyenne is her first name. And then Becca Maltby, who also has a contract with the district court to do the evaluations to determine competency. She'll be on the committee. And then we'll have a couple of folks from the jail who will serve on the committee to make sure that from the security side and the classification side, we aren't letting somebody slip into that program that could be violent or dangerous or anything major that would create a security risk to our agency. And then we'll have Armor represented by at least 1, maybe 2 members, depending upon how the inmate is doing. And they're there to make sure that we know about any physical condition or any kind of medication issue that we have with that person. This committee will meet beginning on the 11th of this month to identify inmates who are determined to be incompetent and who would be eligible for our program. And then after that, all that's left is kick the car out of the garage and see if it drives. So we're looking forward to that kicking off. We know that there's going to be bumps. We know there's going to be bruises. But our expectation is once we clear through all of that, then we will be able to start having an actual significant impact on the number of people who are sitting in our jail waiting for competency restoration, or at least for the issue to be resolved so they can move through the legal process. So that's it in a nutshell. I've put in front of you kind of a box drawing, let you kind of see how the process flows through the court system. I'm happy to talk through that with any one of you if you have questions about it. But that is it in a nutshell, the way it will operate once we put this into gear. And I'll stand for any questions you have.
Any questions? No. I appreciate the flow chart here. It spells it out pretty good, so, for us laymen. All right, thank you.
And again, thank you for your support. None of this can happen if we didn't have the support and guidance of the county counselor's office and the commission. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, welcome.
Next, Angela McCurdy. I'm talking about the JDC Juvenile Detention Center programs and the performance-based standards. I do have a quick handout just on the juvenile detention center programs. I didn't want to bore you and just list out all the programs because I have quite a few, and I figured that would be boring. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of our programs. So you can see that we have some volunteer-led programs and then officer-led programs on the right there. The volunteer-led programs that I kind of want to highlight are the One Heart Project. That's one of our mentoring programs. We've had that for several years. That program also is part of our 501 school program. That mentoring program's in there, and they also are with ISP, so with community corrections, and I believe they're also at court services as well. I was trying to find that out today, but I believe they're there too. So if a juvenile is involved in that program in the detention center, they can also stay involved in that program once they leave the detention center, and if they're still in 501. And also if they're on ISP or court services. Usually once they leave our facility, they're still either on bond supervision with court services or on probation with ISP or court services. So they can stay involved in that program. Also, the Family Peace Initiative program is our program we use that with young boys. That's a program that focuses on group counseling for traumatic behavior. We identify boys that typically have aggressive behavior, and that program is for them. And then also the behavioral health and substance disorder. That is a program that so every kid that comes into the detention center is assessed through the GAINS assessment. That's one that we started doing this year, that through House Bill 2021 that KDOC requires us to do. And so that one, once the kid is screened, if they score in, that is a contract service that we do with Family Service and Guidance Center. So pretty much what we have found this year is every kid scores out that they need services, whether it's with behavioral health or substance use. So we have connected pretty much every youth that comes in. They are connected with Family Service and Guidance Center. Some of those kids are already enrolled in services with Family Service, and so they already have a therapist, and so we're reconnecting them with their therapist. One of the future goals that we have for this program is that we're keeping those kids connected, because what we're seeing is that once we get them reconnected, once they leave, sometimes they're still staying connected, but sometimes they're not continuing those appointments when they leave with Family Service and Guidance Center for whatever reason, whether they're not able to get to those appointments or parents aren't taking them. So we're trying to figure that out for next year, to continue for this year into next year and figure out why they're not making those appointments. And then for one of our officer-led programs, I came in front of you guys a few months ago. Well, actually, it's probably not even that long ago, but the Atlas Digital Interactive Journaling Program, that was approved. We will actually probably start doing that in June. That will be on our tablets. We currently do that as a paper journals. We'll be doing those in the interactive, the tablet platform, digital platform. So we'll have more access to more journals. So we're excited about that program, and that will start in June. So we switched to, and I'm going to start talking about performance-based standards. We switched from the ACA standards. We were using the American Correctional Association standards, which are more formalized standards. It's pretty much you meet the mandatory standards or you don't. So we switched from those this year to the performance-based standards, which are with the Center for Youth, I don't know why I can't think of it right now, but the Center for Improving Youth Justice. That was, so the Kansas Department of Corrections, one is encouraging the detention centers across the state to move to a more standardized approach with performance-based standards. Currently, the Kansas Juvenile Correctional Complex, so KJCC, they follow the performance-based standards, and Johnson County Detention Center also is part of, they do the performance-based standards. the Juvenile Justice Oversight Committee has grant funds that they, through KDOC, has provided other detention centers, and for this year to apply for and be a part of performance-based standards. So our facility, Shawnee County, Sedgwick County, and Wyandotte County have joined and been a part of doing the, applied for those funds and started being part of those standards this year. So the performance-based standards are they're data-driven, they're continuous improvement plan. So they're not you meet the standard and you're done. It's something where we're more continually looking at how we can improve in specific areas. So we started doing that this year. We have a site coordinator on site with us, and we have 2 other people that on staff that went to training this year with KDOC. We'll have a PBS coach that's assigned to us through CIYJ, and we have 2 data cycles that we'll go through each year. That will be in April and October. So we had our first data cycle that looks at specific domains, that's safety, order, security, health, behavioral health, family, justice, and programming. So those are all the different areas of standards that we'll look at. So like I said, we had our first data collection in April. I actually just got our first report from that. So when we do a data collection, we have kiosks that we get, and we give those kiosks, and they do surveys for all of our youth that are in the facility. So every youth that even comes in the facility, they'll get a kiosk, and they do a survey. Staff randomly get selected to do the surveys, and then volunteers and family. So when families come in to visit their kids, they'll also be provided with a kiosk to do a survey. So that happened through the entire month of April. So we got our report back yesterday. So I had a quick chance to look at it to kind of see if I could get some. So I'm trying to read this data, and I'm not very good at it, but I was trying to look at it. So I was actually pretty pleased with what the outcomes were. But there were some areas that I know that we'll have to look at how we're going to improve and create improvement plans for those through our coach. But the family engagement was one area of outcomes that I knew that some of the areas were good, but there was one area that I was not surprised that we would score fairly low in, and that was that families aren't invited to come into the facility and participate in programs. So we're fairly low in like family engagement in that area. But we don't have programming currently that families come and participate in. Behavioral health, and in the health assessment area, we scored low in, and that was because the suicide prevention screening and the health assessment, they require it or want you to have that done when every youth comes into the facility. They want those screenings to be done within an hour or less, and we scored low in that area, so we'll have some improvements to do in that. What I've found is during the day when our nurse and behavioral health staff are in the juvenile detention center, because we have a nurse and a social worker there in the juvenile detention center, after 3:30, 4 o'clock, we have to have a nurse or a behavioral health staff come from the jail side to come to the juvenile detention center. And so that's when I think those times get skewed, where it's over an hour because we have to wait for them to come. So we'll have to work on that. And then the justice section, the only major concern that I have in that area where we scored fairly low was the attorney visits for kids. So we scored very low in that area, where we had only, out of the 31 kids that have been through the facility in the month of April, we only had 3 attorney visits for those kids. So that was pretty low. And then order was another area we have concerns in, and that was really around isolation and room confinement times. And the area that we scored very high in, which isn't good, is considered voluntary time out, which is kind of skewed because kids can take voluntary time out, and that's mainly during the times where we don't have school and we don't have mandatory programming. So we'll have some look and work with our PBS coach to see about how we report those times. But again, this is our first data collection period, so I was actually very pleased that we only scored low in a few areas. And then we'll work with our PBS coach on creating our improvement plans. And then our next data collection period will be in October. So by April, when we do another one, that will be a full year of data collection period. So we'll look and see how we've improved in a year. So other than that, I will stand for any questions you have.
Questions?
No.
That's great.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Joe Rucker, Shawnee, Deputy Director, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I'm here to talk about the work crew. We have 2 work crews in our department. We have city and we have county. Our city crews out there Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, about 5 hours a day, so 15 hours a week, helping improve the properties, getting them up to code. Our county crew is also out there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Sometimes on the weekends. Both of our crews are supervised by our corrections specialist. Some of the areas that we worked on this year would be Shawnee County, Lake Shawnee. We're at Forbes Field. At Lake Shawnee, we do the garden, putting up the tulips and planting flowers and mulching and removing trees and brush piles and just help, keep the community, improve the appearance of the community. We also work Lake Shawnee campgrounds, yacht club, and the Landon Trail. I know our work crew takes great pride in the work that they put out. It's a benefit overall appearance of the community. However, it's also beneficial to the inmates who are in that program. I know a lot of those guys take pride when actually released from our custody. They go back to those sites and see what they've actually done to help improve the community. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Well, I know that the work crews seem to get a lot of attention. I hear all the time people saying, well, we ought to call and see about getting a work crew. I mean, it sounds like we're already pretty busy, though. Yes. So, I mean, obviously, we want to help wherever we can, but resources are relatively limited. So I appreciate what you guys do. I saw that they had helped with the Evergy Fight Night the other day, and it was a social media post that was out there. It was getting a lot of traction. So good to see all the good stuff going on with the work crews. So, any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. Last but not least, right? Steve Willis, Community Corrections. I'm just going to visit just for a few minutes on community corrections in general, maybe share a little bit about the programs that we're running, and get out of your hair. Overall, community corrections, we supervise adult and juvenile probationers, high risk, mostly felony cases. We are the 4th largest in the state of Kansas. We are just underneath Wyandotte County, Johnston County, and Sedgwick County. Many of the cases that we see have kind of gone between Johnston County, Wyandotte County. Here we see a lot of transfers into Topeka. We have a lot of Oxford houses here. So roughly about 35% of the cases that we supervise are from other entities or other agencies as courtesy transfers. There's a lot of opportunities for success within Shawnee County. And I think the biggest thing that we try to focus on is creating buy-in to the community. That buy-in really helps those probationers who we are working with identify reasons why they want to take care of the community, why they want to build a life that's successful here, and reduce that that risk for crime. Officers are trained in different communication skills and styles that allow for that creation of buy-in. They are highly proficient in some of the trainings that we do. We have a quality assurance process in place that tells us how they're doing. One of the biggest impacts that we have is how well we are assessing for criminogenic behaviors, whether or not somebody is at risk to use drugs and alcohol, or how likely they are to be with people that are also likely to commit new crimes and that kind of thing. And then how we can work with that probationer, their families, their contacts to help reduce that time within those criminogenic needs. Those are big impact things for our agency, and we've seen some positive growth within that. Along with those highly proficient trainings, we have highly proficient programs that we run. We have 2 program specialists on the adult side and 1 on the juvenile side, all who are focused on developing programs that focus on community buy-in, community outreach, and cognitive behavioral change. Ultimately, we want to be able to identify what your thinking is, what happens when we are impulsive, and how we can change that. And so those 3 officers, they do a great job. They involve all the ISP staff, and currently we have contracts through those programs with other community agencies like FPI. You've heard Angela talk about FPI and One Heart. We work with the Boys and Girls Club, who's done an excellent job. We have contracts with KCSL to help run juvenile intake, and they run a great OASIS program there. I share all of those because we wouldn't be successful in the work that we're doing in community corrections without the connections that we have within the community as well. We also have a few new grants within our program that have really helped stretch out the things that we can do. We've talked up here about the mental health initiative that we have, where we received a $725,000 grant over the next 3 years to help increase our mental health services and allow for the probationers to receive up to 10 free mental health sessions within our office, and we will pay for the mental health evaluation. Those are really big impacts, not only financially, but it gets us information on how we can assist those individuals who are living in the community. We can assist them in a quicker fashion. Then we also have a new drug screening program that a grant is paying for. It's allowing us to not only increase our drug testing services, but take $70,000 that we have in our current budget and use for services instead of identifying drug screening issues. So that drug screen process, while it is important to identify what's being used, it also identifies how often and where we can go to help reduce some of those addiction needs in a quicker fashion as well. Our juvenile side, we have 2 new initiatives that we're working on. The Crossover Youth Project model, that is a impact between social services, or DCF, and Kansas Department of Corrections, but ultimately community corrections and those agencies within our community who have youth that are on the social service side and the corrections side. This is a project that's going to help us communicate between the 2 entities to allow to find where youth are going, where they need to be, who needs to be involved with that case, how many case plans are involved. Sometimes before this project model was created, there could have been 5 or 6 case plans from 5 or 6 different agencies asking a youth and a family to do all of these different things, which was just nearly impossible to complete. So that Crossover Youth Project model has been a big deal. Aaron Hicks, our division manager there, has been a key impact person for that program. And then we have a new initiative for the juvenile side, and it's the first in the nation, which is fun to say. But the Stepping Up initiative that we have on the adult side has moved to the juvenile side, and there are 8 counties in Kansas that have stepped up to be a stepping up, I did that on accident, that are stepping up to be a mental health focused initiative. So we're really excited to be one of those 8. We've started meeting with our team, our core team, and we'll have a nice opportunity here to really impact our youth and the families in the mental health sector. Lastly, I just want to share that we have really started a positive impact on the workforce development piece. Our program specialists have created contracts or personal relationships with warehouse trainers, with people within that kind of work, welders, plumbers, to start these programs where we can begin training some of the probationers that we are interacting with in specific skills that pay really well, that have good licensing, and we're starting to identify some agencies that are willing to bring that person on to mentor and create a possible opportunity for them for longevity. And we know that if somebody is employed, financially stable, and drug-free, you're at a very high level of success with those, and so that's been our focus. With that, I'll stand for any questions, and
Any questions? No?
thank you.
Thank you.
In closing, I just again want to say thank you that, with staffing, we're going to continue to work hard. It's our biggest and our best asset that we have. It's our team that do the work. A few things that, I wanted to follow up with, when we talk about the medication over objection, that's going to be a new way of thinking and how we do business, because, inmates do have and people have the right to refuse medication. And so I want people to understand that as Brian's not going to be just walking around with a handful of syringes ready to start sticking needles in people and things like that. That's going to be such a vetted, precise process of involving the courts and our doctors and stuff like before anything happens like that. And so I just want to emphasize that, on the Juvenile Department of Corrections, in the JDC, that is the programming and how you run the Department of Juveniles. It is such a scrutinized and closely monitored stuff when it comes to KDHE, DCF, and the courts. And so there's so much emphasis put on programming, trauma-informed care, violence, vulnerabilities, and things like that. And so, what I like in the adult side is that is corrections with programs. When you're dealing with the juveniles, you're dealing with a lot of programs with corrections. And so I want to emphasize that. When it comes to our work crew, and Commissioner Mays, you made a very good point. We do our very best. We get called every day by somebody that says, can they come out and help clean up? Can they come out and stage this? Can they come and do this, that, and the other? And we want to do as much as we can. In the past, there's times when we're able to give a whole week of attention to sometimes it may not be that case. I just ask everybody to please be patient. It is a limited resource. We have to be very careful. We don't want anybody to abuse the crews and to replace any workers or anything like that. We have a very good working relationship with Parks and Rec, the City of Topeka, Downtown Topeka Association, but we get a lot of calls, and it is such a limited resource. And just please know, you have our commitment to do as much as we can. And last, I just want to talk about community corrections is, since community corrections came back under the Department of Corrections, this isn't certainly about me, but I will tell you, and I think, when we first started out, Major Phelps, I assigned him over there. We had a lot of inventory, a lot of just auditing of finding out what was the status, and we were learning. And not only did we find out there was a lot of good work already going on, it was a lot of relationship building between the Department of Corrections and Community Corrections, the Kansas Department of Corrections, and things like that. And now we have Major Willis on board, and is doing such an excellent job. But I think it's the sharing of resources. We have a peer person inside the jail that is being paid with grants, the behavioral health, the relationships, getting community correction staff on board, and he mentioned stepping up. They're involved now in stepping up. We're utilizing ISP officers to come over, involve training for the inmates and stuff. So the partnership and the relationship and the teamwork that we're seeing there has enhanced the services, the community, and the Department of Corrections. So unless you have any other questions, I appreciate your time, and I believe the sheriff has a presentation, so.
Okay.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Hill with Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. Just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on our crime center and some of the things that we've had come online here. We've spent the last couple of years building out this real-time crime center at the Sheriff's Office. We've continued to do our partnership with all the law enforcement agencies and entities that are around us. We've recently just redid our Shawnee County Drug Task Force commitment. Some of the smaller cities have changed chiefs of police. City of Topeka actually just got a new chief of police, so we was able to reacquire one signature to continue working together with that throughout all of Shawnee County. Our real-time crime center, we was fortunate enough to get close to $3 million in grants that we was able to build that out with. We're partnering with the City of Topeka to man that crime center. Currently, I've talked to numerous investigators. That's one of the first tools they go to help with a lot of their violent investigations in the city and the county. So I got a short video here. I believe Amanda's got queued up. I'll let her play that, and then I'll stand for any questions. Amanda.
In 2024, Sheriff Brian Hill and the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office introduced the Real-Time Crime Center, a highly advanced tool designed to support law enforcement, strengthen public safety, and provide timely, actionable intelligence for the protection of Shawnee County and Topeka residents. The Real-Time Crime Center leverages advanced digital intelligence, public and private video systems, and the Fusus by Axon platform to provide real-time, actionable data to officers and investigators in the field. The Shawnee County Sheriff's Office has partnered with the Topeka Police Department to integrate trained operators into the center that evaluate and communicate critical front-line information in real time. Deputies and officers respond to the actionable intelligence relayed directly from the center. Since the sheriff launched the Real-Time Crime Center, it has proved to be a valuable resource in solving crimes and protecting our community. The following are a few examples of how the Crime Center has made a direct impact. In April of 2024, the Crime Center provided video and data intelligence to investigators searching for a vehicle that had left the scene of a homicide. In August of 2024, the Crime Center located a stolen vehicle and provided a description of the vehicle and driver to patrol officers that were ultimately able to make an arrest and recover the vehicle. In September of 2024, officers responded to the theft of a vehicle from a local convenience store that contained a passenger with special needs. The Crime Center responded, searching multiple camera feeds to confirm the vehicle location and direction of travel. With this information, law enforcement officers from multiple agencies were able to find and stop the vehicle and arrest the driver. The passenger was found still inside the vehicle unharmed. In December of 2024, a deputy with the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office attempted to conduct a traffic stop in the 1100 block of Northwest Topeka Boulevard. When the driver refused to stop, the vehicle fled the scene at a high rate of speed, was involved in a traffic crash, and the driver fled the vehicle on foot. The Crime Center provided real-time intelligence to officers on the street, which resulted in the capture and arrest of the driver on multiple charges. In December of 2024, officers observed a vehicle driving recklessly on Wanamaker Road. The Crime Center was able to locate and track the vehicles through camera footage and alerted officers that the driver had ditched the vehicle at a shopping center on Southwest 29th Street. Based upon this information, officers were able to locate and arrest the suspect. The suspect was also wanted for a felony theft case. In December of 2024, the Shawnee County Emergency Dispatch received a 911 call reporting a recent strong-arm robbery at a local bus stop. The Crime Center located the fleeing suspect and directed officers to the suspect's location, where he was arrested. In December of 2024, a 10-year-old special needs student ran away from a local middle school. The Crime Center quickly reviewed local camera feeds and located the missing child. Officers then recovered the missing child and returned the child safely to school. In December of 2024, homicide detectives were able to use the Crime Center to gather valuable evidence of a suspect and the suspect vehicle. In March of 2025, a K-9 unit with the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office attempted to conduct a traffic stop on a stolen Kia SUV near Southwest 21st Street and Southwest Randolph Avenue. The driver refused to stop and initiated a pursuit. A member of the sheriff's command staff successfully deployed stop sticks and brought the pursuit to an end near Southwest 37th Street and Southwest Topeka Boulevard. The driver fled from the vehicle on foot and was taken into custody nearby. The Sheriff's Real-Time Crime Center has also partnered with area schools to enhance student safety. In the event of a critical incident, the center can access school video feeds in real time, providing responding law enforcement officers with crucial information before they arrive on scene. This technology allows us to direct first responders to the exact location of a threat, enabling a faster and more effective response to protect students and staff. If there is a safety concern at a school, our crime center can go live with on-site video, locate the threat, and guide officers directly to it. The more real-time intelligence we provide, the safer our response and our community will be. To further strengthen community safety and engagement, the center has launched Connect Shawnee County, a voluntary camera registry. Residents and businesses can register the location of their security cameras, helping law enforcement quickly identify potential video evidence during investigations. This program does not give us access to your cameras or footage. It simply lets us know where we might request video if a crime occurs nearby.
Connect Shawnee County is a modern neighborhood watch. It's a voluntary partnership to help protect our community. Registering is easy, secure, and confidential.
Together, under the leadership of Sheriff Brian Hill and the dedicated men and women of the Sheriff's Office, as well as the support from the Topeka Police Department and our community, the Real-Time Crime Center is making Shawnee County a safer place for everyone. Learn more or register your camera at connectshawneecounty.org. Since Sheriff Hill launched the Shawnee County Real-Time Crime Center, serious Part 1 crimes, burglaries, and vehicle thefts have declined. The Crime Center represents a strategic investment in public safety by building a safer community through modern policing solutions.
I think this video just kind of gives you an overview of some of the capabilities of the Crime Center. Some of the things that are really cool about this, I can tell you as used to be a homicide investigator, we spend days, if not weeks, trying to track down camera feeds and areas of incidents and people allowing their cameras to be registered with us. It provides us a venue, and now if we have crimes in certain areas, they can send out emails to everybody in those areas that have registered cameras and say, we had this incident in your neighborhood between these hours, would you check your camera feeds? And we're getting responses back from people just forwarding their video from their own home systems to investigators, which saves time, and time is money when it comes to manpower and doing these investigations. So that the school safety was one of the primary things that we tried to get on board with. At this point, about every county school is on board, and 501 has been coming in, meeting with our people to try to bring all the 501 schools online. So I hope that'll go ahead and come to fruition. Some of the other capabilities this center actually has is the ability to remote view officers' camera footage. Guy's by himself somewhere without a back, he can ask to be activated, and they can bring his camera up to see what he's seeing in those incidents till his backs get there. We have the capability now of flying drones from that center. It used to be when a drone operator came on scene, he'd have to put the drone up, and he was busy flying that, so somebody else had to do the cop stuff. We're real close to having the capabilities of him just putting the drone up. It's flown from the center, and he can go do the police stuff if needed at the time. So as we get into this, I know we're about another 24 intersections that are about to come online. We were simply waiting on a virtual server to be set up here in the county, and I know our IT in the county's been working pretty diligently to get that done for us. But every day in this country, we get intel bulletins of things moving across this country. And it oftentimes in forms of car information, tag information. It wasn't that long ago, there was a couple of kids that left and said they was driving to Texas and they was going to shoot up schools out there. So their tag information was put in, and I know everybody was checking LPRs all across the country for those kids. They did actually find them and detain them before they got to their objective. But it's very comforting to know if we can get enough coverage around the county, things that get off to come into Topeka, Shawnee County. Be nice to get alerts if you know everybody in the country is looking for some of these people. So as a safety thing, same reason you put cameras up around your house, that's why we put them up around the county. So I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Yes. This city police uses this system as well. Do you guys share information?
Absolutely. Yes.
Do they help man this facility, or?
They do, yeah.
Good.
We've actually got a facility that's manned out with basically almost 2 cockpit seats. We built it out for a PD guy and a sheriff guy. But this facility extends well past those 4 walls because detectives can access this through any terminal at their desk and pull this up. Because a lot of the times the people in the center are getting the real-time information and putting out proactive information. Mostly detectives are using it reactively. They're looking at camera feeds. They maintain a video library so they can go back a few days and see if something happened in the area. We have downtown Topeka that's come on board with camera feeds now. So yeah, it's just a huge benefit in all of the policing aspects.
All right. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioners. If I can just add something to that, I want to say the DA's office is incredibly excited about the Real-Time Crime Center and the capabilities that it's already presented. The ability for our law enforcement partners to identify crimes in progress and respond in real time is really just priceless to us as a crime deterrent, as a real-time intervention technique. And then you heard the sheriff talk about follow-up investigation when the detectives are going through. I can tell you specifically, we have had homicide cases solved because of the capabilities of the Real-Time Crime Center. So we're a huge proponent, huge supporter. We're excited to partner with them on it. And I think that's the last piece, is it's a real community partnership because it requires businesses and individuals in the community to partner with law enforcement. And I don't need to tell you why that's important. The last thing I'll add is I fully intend to develop and lay out a partnership program utilizing diversion funds that will allow businesses at strategic locations identified by law enforcement in some of those gap areas that the sheriff was referencing, use those diversion monies to purchase the hardware if they're willing to cover the rest of the cost and sign an MOU with us and law enforcement. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, I believe that concludes our presentation today, unless there's anyone else that has anything else to add. Okay. We did not have anybody signed up for public comment, so we'll move on to administrative communications. Are there any administrative communications today? Commissioner Cook?
Nope.
Commissioner Rippon?
No.
Okay, nothing from me, except just good luck to all of our high school teams that are still battling for state championships right now. There's a lot going on around here, and I think we're well represented in Shawnee County in soccer, baseball, softball, the whole 9 yards. So, okay, so the next item is executive session, and we do have a need for executive session today. So I'll make a motion that we go into executive session for a period not to exceed 30 minutes for the purposes of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel. Specifically, we're going to be talking about wages. So like I said, that's 30 minutes. I think we might take a 5-minute break to kind of clear everyone out. And so we'll start at 10:20. So that's the motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. So we'll be in executive session at 10:20.
4 minutes and 15 seconds. On a positive note, it's almost time for lunch.
Okay, we are back from executive session. No action was taken. We are adjourned.